I'm standing in the kitchen, my left arm screaming from a torn bicep, stirring a pot of chili with my good hand. The pain's like a dull knife twisting in my muscle, but I keep going because tonight's supposed to be special. It's our 10th wedding anniversary. Me and Lauren, married a decade, raising our 5-year-old son, Caleb, the kid who makes every ache worth it. I've spent hours chopping onions, browning beef, and mixing spices for Lauren's favorite meal, the kind she used to call better than any restaurant. I even baked cornbread, golden and warm, and set out a little gift. A bracelet I saved up for, nothing flashy, just something to say I still care. Caleb's been buzzing around, proud as can be, setting the table with mismatched napkins he picked out himself. But when Lauren walks in at 7:03 p.m., everything I built up in my head crumbles like that cornbread under too much pressure. She's carrying a pizza box, the greasy kind from the chain down the road, and her face twists when she sees the spread on our dining table. No hello, no smile, just a sigh heavy enough to knock the air out of me. You're kidding me, right, Matt? She says, dropping the box on the counter. This is what you've been wasting your time on. I freeze, spatula in hand, my brain scrambling to catch up. I spent all day on this, worked through the pain of an injury from hauling lumber at the warehouse 3 weeks ago, the kind of tear that makes lifting a gallon of milk feel like a bad idea. Doctor told me to rest it, but I wanted to do this for her, for us. Lauren's been different lately, maybe the last year or so. Sharp words, eye rolls, picking at everything I do. The way I fold laundry, how I tell Caleb bedtime stories, even the beard I've kept since we met. I figured it was just life piling up, her job at the insurance office, the bills, the usual grind. But tonight, her words cut deeper than I'm ready for. She looks at the chili, the cornbread, the candles I lit to make it feel like old times, and says, God, Matt, even your cooking's as useless as you are. I swallow hard, my chest tightening, but what she does next breaks something inside me I didn't know could break. She turns to Caleb, who's still holding a spoon he was using to sneak a taste of the chili, his eyes wide and confused. Buddy, she says, kneeling to his level, her voice sweet but laced with something ugly. Promise me you'll grow up smarter than your dad. Some guys just aren't cut out for anything worthwhile. My boy looks at me, then at her, his little face crumpling like he's trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. I want to yell, to tell her to stop, but my voice is stuck, like it's buried under a pile of bricks. My dad used to say, Matt, you show who you are when the world's kicking you down. So I don't scream. I don't throw anything. I just turn off the stove, pack the chili into Tupperware, and blow out the candles while Lauren slices the pizza and Caleb picks at a crust, quiet as a mouse. After they eat, I clean up the pizza box, the plates, the mess of a night that was supposed to mean something. Lauren's on her phone, scrolling through whatever, not looking at me. I take Caleb up for his bath, read him his favorite book about a dog named Rocket, and he hugs me tight before bed, like he's holding on to something he's scared to lose. I sit in the garage afterward, in my old pickup, the one with the dented fender I never got around to fixing. I just breathe, trying to keep the anger and hurt from swallowing me whole. Last night was our anniversary, 10 years of building a life. Nothing fancy, just a steady job, a small house we've almost paid off, and a kid who's my whole world. But Lauren's words keep looping in my head, and I can't shake the way Caleb looked at me, like he was wondering if his mom was right. This morning, she acted like nothing happened. Made her coffee, kissed Caleb goodbye, and left for work without a word to me. I dropped Caleb at kindergarten, sat in the school parking lot, and made 2 calls. First to my buddy Tom, who's a family lawyer now, not the guy I used to shoot hoops with in high school. Second to my brother, Nate, asking if Caleb and I could crash at his place for a bit while I figure out what's next. I'm not diving into anything rash, but last night crossed a line I can't ignore. You don't tear down your kid's dad in front of him. You don't make a 5-year-old question the man who'd walk through fire for him. I'm picking Caleb up early tomorrow, and we're heading to Nate's for the weekend. Lauren doesn't know yet. She'll find out when she comes home to a note on the fridge. My arm's throbbing as I type this on my phone, but getting it out feels like loosening a knot in my gut. I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I know I can't keep doing nothing. It's been 12 days since that pizza night, 12 days of sharing a house with someone who looks at me like I'm a piece of furniture she regrets buying. My arm's still in a sling most hours, the bicep tear reminding me I'm not Superman, but I'm moving better now, enough to carry Caleb's backpack or stir a pot of mac and cheese without wincing. Those 12 days haven't been loud or explosive, not yet. They've been a slow burn, like a fuse I didn't know I'd lit until I started smelling smoke. I'm playing what my dad called the long game, keeping my head down while I piece together what comes next. Lauren's noticed something's off, though. I can tell by the way she squints at me when I don't react to her jabs, like she's poking a bear and wondering why it's not growling. That weekend at my brother Nate's was a lifeline. Caleb and I showed up Friday night, him clutching his stuffed dinosaur, me with a duffel bag and a head full of noise. Nate's place is a bachelor pad, couch that's seen better days, fridge full of beer and leftover takeout, but it felt like a sanctuary. Caleb ran straight to the living room, where Nate had set up a blanket for it with Christmas lights strung inside. My kid's eyes lit up like it was Disney World. We spent Saturday building a birdhouse from a kit Nate had lying around, Caleb hammering nails with his little hands while I held the wood steady. No one snapped at anybody. No one called anybody a waste of space. At night, after Caleb crashed in the guest room, Nate cracked open 2 beers, handed me one, and said, "Spill it, Matt." What's going on? I didn't plan to unload, but I ended up telling him everything, not just the anniversary disaster, but the last year of Lauren's cold shoulder, the way she's been rewriting me as the villain in her head. I showed him a voice memo I'd recorded that night in the kitchen. Yeah, I've been doing that lately, hitting record on my phone when Lauren's words turn venomous. Started a few months back when she'd deny saying things I knew I'd heard, making me question my own memory. Nate listened to her voice on the recording, clear as day, telling Caleb I wasn't worth looking up to. His jaw tightened, and he just said, "You got a plan?" I nodded, but truth is, it was barely a sketch then. I told him I'd called Tom, my lawyer friend, and he'd agreed to meet Monday. Nate didn't push, just clapped my good shoulder and said, "You're tougher than you think, man." I didn't feel tough, but I held on to that. Sunday night, we rolled back home. Lauren was on the couch, painting her nails, the TV blaring some dating show. She glanced up as Caleb ran to hug her, but her eyes slid past me like I was invisible. Didn't ask where we'd been, didn't comment on Caleb's chatter about the birdhouse. Just said, "You forget to grab milk?" I hadn't, but my arm was still a mess, and I wasn't about to explain myself. I put Caleb to bed, read him another chapter of Rocket's adventures, and lay awake in the guest room, mapping out my next moves like I was planning a job at the warehouse, step by step, no shortcuts. Monday morning, I started checking boxes. Dropped Caleb at kindergarten, then drove to a new bank across town. Opened an account in my name, transferred exactly half our savings, $6 for 27.19, down to the penny, all logged in a notebook. I rerouted my paycheck from the warehouse to the new account and made copies of every important paper we had, mortgage statements, Caleb's birth certificate, our marriage license, even the deed to the house. It felt like packing for a trip I didn't want to take, but I kept going. At lunch, I sat in my truck and called a counselor Tom recommended, a guy who works with kids caught in family messes. We did a quick video call, me hunched over my phone in the parking lot. He talked about keeping Caleb steady, not bad-mouthing Lauren in front of him, no matter how much I might want to. Hard advice to swallow, but I listened. Tuesday, I did something I hadn't planned. I drove to Lauren's sister, Jess, who lives an hour away. She's always been the odd one out in their family, quiet, keeps to herself, doesn't buy into Lauren's charm. I showed up unannounced, a thermos of coffee in hand as an apology for the intrusion. Jess invited me in, and we sat at her kitchen table, her dog snoring in the corner. I didn't sugarcoat it. I played the recording, showed her text Lauren had sent me over the past few months, little digs like, "Can't you do anything right?" And, "Why do I bother with you?" Jess's face didn't change much, but her hands gripped her mug tighter. She asked if I tried talking to Lauren, working it out. I told her about the time I'd suggested we see a therapist last spring. Lauren had laughed, said she didn't need a shrink to tell her she'd settled for less. Jess just nodded, like she'd heard that tune before. Then she said something that stuck with me. "Matt, has Lauren been spending time with anybody new?" I hadn't wanted to think it, didn't want to be that guy, but the question hit a nerve. Lauren's late nights at the office, the way she'd started locking her phone after years of leaving it on the counter, the team dinners she never invited me to. I shrugged, told Jess I didn't have proof, but her question planted a seed. That night, when Lauren was in the bath, I picked up her phone. I know, it's not my proudest moment, but when you're drowning, you grab whatever's floating. Her passcode was still Caleb's birthday. I found text with her coworker, Derek, hundreds of them. Not outright proof of anything physical, but the kind of messages that carve out a piece of your gut. Jokes I didn't get, complaints about how I don't get her, plans for drinks when she'd told me she was working late. I snapped photos of the screen, sent them to myself, and put the phone back before she noticed. Now, I'm keeping my head down, acting normal while I build my case. I've started teaching Caleb little things, how to make peanut butter toast, how to tie his shoes, so he feels capable, not caught in the middle. Lauren's starting to notice I'm different. Yesterday, she walked in while Caleb and I were laughing over a burnt batch of toast, and she just stared, like she couldn't place us in her world anymore. I'm not flinching when she snaps at me, not begging for her approval. I took Caleb to the park after school today, just us, and didn't tell her until she texted asking where we were. Her reply was a string of question marks, then a call I let go to voicemail. My arm's healing, and so's something else, maybe the part of me that thought I deserved her words. I'm not there yet, but I'm moving towards something, and it doesn't include staying small in my own house. It's been 21 days since that night with the chili and the pizza box, and I'm starting to feel like a man waking up from a long, bad dream. My arm's getting stronger, still sore, but I can lift Caleb onto my shoulders for a minute without seeing stars. The warehouse doc says I'm ahead of schedule, but the real work's been in my head, piecing together what I want for me and my boy. Lauren's still here, in the house we bought 7 years ago, but it's like we're roommates who forgot how to talk. She's louder now, her words sharper, like she's trying to bait me into a fight. I don't bite. My dad always said, "Don't wrestle with a pig, Matt, you both get dirty, but the pig enjoys it." So I keep my cool, even when it feels like swallowing glass. Last weekend at Nate's gave me and Caleb a breather, but it also lit a fire under me. I came back with a plan, not the kind you write down, but the kind that sits in your gut, telling you it's time to move. Monday after we got home, I started tightening things up. I met Tom, my lawyer buddy, at a diner near his office, the kind of place where the coffee's strong and nobody eavesdrops. I brought a folder with everything I'd gathered: bank statements, screenshots of Lauren's text with Derek, and 3 voice memos from the past month, including that anniversary night when she told Caleb I wasn't worth his time. Tom listened, scribbling notes, his face calm but his eyes serious. He didn't sugarcoat it. Divorce is a slog, especially with a kid involved, but he said I was doing the right thing by documenting everything. You're building a foundation, Matt, he told me. Keep it steady, and don't let her push you into reacting. That conversation stuck with me, especially when I got home and found Lauren waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed, like she'd been rehearsing a speech. Where were you? She demanded, her voice tight. I could have said I was at the diner, could have thrown it back at her for all the time she's vanished without a word, but I just shrugged and said, out. Her eyes narrowed, and for a second, I saw something new, uncertainty, maybe. Like she's starting to realize I'm not the same guy who'd beg for a scrap of her approval. I walked past her, checked on Caleb doing his coloring at the table, and kissed his head before heading to the garage to tinker with my toolbox. It's my quiet place now, where I can think without her shadow over me. Tuesday, I took a half day from work and drove to see Lauren's dad, Ray. He's a retired mechanic, lives alone in a tidy bungalow 40 minutes out. Ray's always been straight with me, the kind of guy who'd rather fix a carburetor than talk feelings, but he's got a soft spot for Caleb. I didn't call ahead, didn't want Lauren getting wind of it. When I pulled up, Ray was in his driveway, polishing a vintage motorcycle. He waved me over, offered me a soda, and we sat on his porch, the autumn air cool and crisp. I didn't waste his time. I told him about the anniversary, played the recording of Lauren's words to Caleb, and showed him a few of those texts with Derek. Ray's hands went still, his jaw working like he was chewing on something bitter. He didn't defend her, didn't make excuses. Just said, I raised her better than that, Matt. I'm sorry. Then he asked what I needed from him. I told him I wasn't here to turn him against his daughter. I just wanted him to know Caleb might need him more soon. Ray nodded, said he'd be there, no question. When I left, he clapped my good arm and told me to take care of myself. That meant more than he probably knew. The rest of the week, I kept moving forward, quiet but deliberate. I started taking Caleb to the library after school once a week, just us, picking out books about dinosaurs and spaceships. He loves it, and it's time Lauren can't touch. She's noticed, though, yesterday she cornered me while I was washing dishes, asking why I'm acting so weird and keeping Caleb from her. I dried my hands, looked her in the eye, and said, I'm just being his dad. No fight, no yelling, just the truth. She didn't know what to do with that. Later, I caught her staring at me from the living room, like she was trying to crack a code. Good luck, I thought. I'm done handing out the answers. The big shift came Thursday night. I'd been wrestling with whether to check Lauren's phone again. Last time left me feeling like I needed a shower, but I needed to know how deep this thing with Derek ran. She was out, running errands, which lately meant coming home 2 hours later than expected, so I picked up her phone from the coffee table. Same passcode, same app. The texts were bolder now, Derek talking about a weekend trip they were planning, her laughing about how I'd never suspect a thing. There was even a message where she called me the guy who pays the bills, like I was her landlord, not her husband. My stomach churned, but I took my time, snapping photos of every message, every date, every lie. I sent them to Tom into a private email I'd set up, then put the phone back exactly where it was. When Lauren got home, I was folding Caleb's laundry, calm as a summer lake. She didn't suspect a thing, but I could feel the ground shifting under us. No, I'm doubling down. I've been reaching out to old friends, guys I drifted from when Lauren started pulling me into her orbit. Had coffee with my high school buddy, Chris, who's a cop now. Didn't tell him everything, just enough to let him know I might need someone in my corner. He didn't pry, just said he's got my back. I'm teaching Caleb more little skills, how to water the plants, how to pack his lunchbox, so he feels like he's got some control in this mess. Lauren's getting antsy, snapping at me for things that don't matter, like leaving a mug on the counter or parking the truck too close to her car. Last night, she accidentally knocked my work boots into a puddle by the back door. I cleaned them off, didn't say a word, but I saw her hesitate, like she was waiting for me to explode. That's when I knew I'm getting under her skin, not by fighting, but by refusing to play her game. This morning, I had a call with Tom while Caleb was at school. He's got the paperwork started, divorce filing, custody outline, the works. It's sitting in a locked drawer at work, not ready to serve yet, but close. I'm taking Caleb to Nate's again this weekend, just to clear our heads. Lauren doesn't know, and I'm not telling her until we're gone. My phone's been buzzing with her texts today, random stuff, like she's testing if I'm still here. I answer late, short, letting her stew. My arm's healing, my resolve's hardening, and for the first time in a long time, I'm starting to see a way out. Not just for me, but for Caleb, who deserves a dad who's more than a punching bag. It's been a month now since that night I stood in the kitchen, my chili going cold while Lauren's words burned holes in me. 30 days of living like strangers under the same roof, tiptoeing around each other while I try to keep Caleb's world from cracking open. My arm's better, still stiff some mornings, but I can swing a hammer at work without cursing under my breath. The pain in my chest, though, that's trickier. It's not just Lauren's voice echoing in my head, telling our boy I'm nothing. It's the slow realization that the woman I married, the one who used to laugh at my terrible puns and steal my fries at the diner, isn't coming back. Maybe she hasn't been here for years. I'm not sure what hurts worse, losing her or admitting I've been fighting for a ghost. The weekends at Nate's have become our escape hatch. Caleb loves it. Nate's got this knack for turning anything into an adventure, like teaching Caleb to skip rocks at the creek behind his apartment or letting him help grill burgers, which mostly means eating half the pickles. Last Sunday, while Caleb napped on Nate's couch, my brother pulled me aside. "You're doing good, Matt," he said, "but you look like you're carrying a piano on your back. When you gonna drop it?" I didn't have an answer, just sipped my coffee and stared at the floor. Nate's right, though. Every step I take, every bank statement I copy, every text I save, is another brick in a wall I'm building, not just to protect me and Caleb, but to keep Lauren from pulling us back into her storm. Back home, things are unraveling in slow motion. Lauren's not even pretending to play nice anymore. She's loud, slamming cabinets, muttering under her breath about how I've changed, like it's a crime. I don't argue, don't raise my voice. My dad's words keep me grounded. Silence is louder than shouting when you've got truth on your side. So I let her stew, let her throw her tantrums. Monday night, she forgot to tell me she was working late, leaving me to scramble when Caleb's teacher called because nobody picked him up. I drove to school, my arm aching from gripping the wheel too tight, and found my boy sitting on a bench, swinging his legs, trying to act like he wasn't scared. I hugged him, told him he did great waiting, and we got ice cream on the way home. Lauren rolled in at 9, smelling like wine and excuses, and didn't even ask how Caleb was. I didn't call her out, just added it to the notebook I keep locked in my toolbox. Wednesday, I took a big step. I met with Tom at his office, not the diner this time. He'd gone through everything I'd sent, the recordings, the screenshots of Lauren's texts with Derek, even a log of her late nights and no-shows for Caleb. Tom leaned back in his chair, tapped his pen on the desk, and said, "You've got a solid case, Matt. Custody's the priority. Courts favor stability for the kid, and you're showing you're the steady one." We talked numbers, savings, the house, child support, and he warned me Lauren might fight dirty once she's served. I nodded, my stomach knotting up, but I told him to start drafting the papers. Driving home, I felt lighter, like I'd finally set down a load I'd been hauling too long. Not free, not yet, but closer. The next day, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my old friend Sarah, who used to work at the warehouse before she moved to teaching. Lauren never liked her, said she was too nosy. So we'd lost touch. I wasn't looking for pity, just a familiar voice. We met at a coffee shop, and I told her the short version. Lauren's words, Caleb's confusion, my plan to leave. Sarah listened, her eyes soft but not judging, and said, "You're a good dad, Matt. Don't let her make you forget that." It was simple, but it hit me hard. I'd been so focused on surviving. I hadn't stopped to think about who I was outside Lauren's shadow. When I got home, I started texting other friends, guys from work, a cousin I hadn't seen since Dad's funeral. Not to spill my guts, just to say hey, to rebuild the bridges Lauren had convinced me to burn. Friday night brought a new wrinkle. Lauren was out again, client dinner, she said, but her heels and perfume told a different story. Caleb was asleep, so I checked her laptop, left open on the kitchen table. I know it sounds sneaky, but when your marriage is a house on fire, you don't apologize for looking for the exit. I found emails between her and Derek, not just flirty but careless, talking about when we're free and once he's out of the picture. My name wasn't in there, but it didn't need to be. I printed 2 pages, tucked them in my folder, and cleared the browser history. My hands shook, not from anger but from clarity. This wasn't just a rough patch. This was Lauren planning a life that didn't include me, maybe never had. Now, I'm doubling down on Caleb. I've been taking him to the community center on Saturdays, where they've got this free art class for kids. He's been painting these wild pictures, spaceships, dinosaurs, once a stick-figure family with just him and me. Lauren hasn't noticed, or if she has, she doesn't care. She's been erratic, one day acting like nothing's wrong, the next snapping at me for leaving dishes in the sink. Yesterday, she tripped over Caleb's sneakers by the door and yelled at me like I'd planned it. I just picked them up, put them in his room, and kept my mouth shut. But I saw her pause, like she was waiting for me to snap back. When I didn't, she looked almost lost. This morning, I dropped Caleb at school and had another call with the counselor. He's been helping me figure out how to talk to Caleb about what's coming without scaring him. Keep it simple, he said. Kids need to know they're safe, not who's right or wrong. I'm trying, but it's hard when I see Caleb watching me and Lauren, like he's waiting for the other shoe to drop. I've got one more weekend planned at Nate's, starting tonight. Lauren doesn't know we're going, and I'm not leaving a note this time. My phone's been lighting up with her calls, 6 today, all ignored. Let her wonder. For years, she's made me feel like I'm not enough. Now I'm starting to believe I'm more than she'll ever understand. It's been 42 days since that night Lauren tore into me over a pot of chili, 42 days of carrying a weight that's starting to feel less like a burden and more like a shield. My arm's almost back to normal, still a little tender when I overdo it at the warehouse, but I can toss Caleb's baseball without grimacing. The real change, though, is inside. I'm not just surviving Lauren's Cold War anymore. I'm mapping a way out for me and my boy. The house feels like a stage now, where we're all playing parts until the curtain drops. Lauren's getting reckless, her mask slipping, and I'm ready for what's coming. The last weekend at Nate's was a turning point. Caleb and I built a kite from a kit, nothing fancy, just string and plastic, but we flew it in the park until the wind stole it into a tree. Caleb laughed so hard he forgot to be sad, and for a few hours, I did too. Nate noticed me smiling and said, "There's the Matt I remember." I didn't know how much I'd missed that version of myself until he said it. When we got back Sunday night, Lauren was waiting, her arms crossed, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You think you can just take off with my son and not tell me?" she snapped. Caleb was upstairs, brushing his teeth, so I kept my tone even. "He's our son, Lauren. We were at Nate's." She huffed, stormed off, but not before I saw her eyes flicker. Anger, sure, but something else too. Doubt, maybe. Good. Let her feel unsteady for once. Monday, I pushed forward. I met Tom at his office again, this time with a new stack of evidence. Those emails from Lauren's laptop, more text with Derek I'd grabbed when she left her phone unlocked, and a note from Caleb's teacher about him seeming withdrawn lately. Tom spread it all out on his desk, like a puzzle coming together. "You're in a strong position," he said. "Primary custody is doable if we show you're the stable parent. We finalized the divorce papers, fair split of assets, no alimony, and a custody plan that puts Caleb first. I told Tom to hold off serving them, just for a bit. I want everything locked tight before I pull the trigger." Driving home, I stopped at the hardware store, bought a new lockbox for my documents. It's not paranoia, it's preparation. Tuesday brought a gut punch I didn't see coming. I picked Caleb up from school, and he was quieter than usual, clutching his backpack like it was a lifeline. In the truck, he finally spilled it. Lauren had sat him down that morning and told him Daddy might not be around as much soon. My blood went cold. I pulled into a gas station, turned to face him, and asked what else she said. "She said you're mad at her," he mumbled, "and that's why you're acting funny." I wanted to drive home and tear into her, but I thought of Dad's advice: protect your kid's heart first, Matt, then settle the score. So I hugged Caleb, told him I'd never leave him, no matter what. "You and me, we're a team," I said. He nodded, but his eyes were still cloudy. That night, I recorded our talk, not for court, but to remind myself why I'm doing this. Wednesday, I went to see Lauren's sister, Jess, again. She texted me after our last visit, checking on Caleb, so I figured she deserved an update. Over coffee at her place, I told her about Lauren's stunt with Caleb, showed her the latest emails. Jess's face went pale. "She's always been selfish," she said, "but this is low, even for her." Then she dropped a bomb. Derek wasn't just a coworker. Jess had heard from a mutual friend that Lauren had been crashing at his place some nights, calling it work stress. I didn't flinch, but it confirmed what I'd been piecing together. Jess offered to talk to Lauren, maybe knock some sense into her, but I shook my head. "This isn't about fixing her," I said. "It's about saving Caleb." Jess hugged me when I left, first time she ever had, and told me to call any time. I drove home feeling heavier but clearer, like I'd crossed a bridge I couldn't uncross. Back at the house, Lauren's unraveling. She stopped hiding her late nights, coming home after midnight with flimsy excuses, team meetings, a friend in crisis. I don't ask questions, just log the times in my notebook. Thursday, she accidentally spilled coffee on my work jacket, then laughed it off like it was nothing. I washed it, hung it to dry, and didn't say a word. But I saw her watching me, waiting for a reaction she didn't get. Friday, she upped the ante. I came home to find my toolbox, my sanctuary, dumped out in the garage, wrenches and screws scattered like a kid's tantrum. Caleb was at a friend's sleepover, thank God. So I just cleaned it up, slow and methodical, while Lauren pretended to be asleep upstairs. I knew it was her. Nobody else has a key. That night, I moved my lockbox to Nate's place. No more chances. This morning, I took Caleb to the park before school, just to talk. He asked if Mommy was mad at me forever. I told him grown-ups sometimes have big problems, but he's never the problem, he's the best part of us. He smiled, small but real, and I held on to that like a lifeline. At lunch, I called Tom from my truck. "I'm ready," I said. He told me the papers are set. We're serving Lauren Monday, when Caleb's at school. I've got a bag packed for him, enough for a week at Nate's while things settle. Lauren's been texting me all day, random stuff, like asking where I put the remote, but I know it's her fishing, trying to figure out why I'm so calm. I reply hours later, one-word answers, letting her twist. My phone's got 8 missed calls from her now, all from this afternoon. I'm not picking up. Tonight, I'm making Caleb's favorite, grilled cheese with extra cheddar, while he colors at the kitchen table. Lauren's out, no word on when she's back. I'm not telling her we're heading to Nate's tomorrow. She'll find out when she sees the empty house and the papers waiting on the counter. I'm not proud of the man I've had to become, sneaky, guarded, always watching my back, but I'm proud of the dad I'm fighting to be. Caleb deserves a home where he's not caught in a war zone, and I'm damn close to giving him that. It's been 50 days since Lauren shattered something in me with a pizza box and a handful of cruel words, and I'm standing on the edge of a new life, one I didn't choose but can't turn back from. My arm's nearly healed, strong enough to carry Caleb's bike into Nate's garage without a twinge, though the warehouse still reminds me to take it easy. The real ache now is watching my boy navigate a world where his mom's unraveling and his dad's trying to hold it together. The house we've called home feels like a borrowed coat, too tight and not mine anymore. Lauren's pushed too far, and Monday morning, everything changes. The weekend at Nate's was quieter this time. Caleb sensed something was up, asking why we kept going to Uncle Nate's all the time. I told him it's because Nate's got the best backyard for hide and seek, which got a giggle, but his eyes were sharper than a 5-year-old should be. Saturday, we baked cookies, chocolate chip, his favorite, making a mess of Nate's kitchen while he laughed and snuck dough when he thought I wasn't looking. Nate joined us, pretending to be a cookie monster, and for a few hours, it was just us three, no shadows hanging over. Sunday night, after Caleb was asleep, I told Nate the plan. Papers get served tomorrow, and I'm moving me and Caleb out for good. Nate didn't say much, just nodded and handed me a key to his place. Stay as long as you need, man, he said. I almost broke down right there, but I held it together. Gotta keep steady for my kid. Monday dawned cold, the kind of November chill that creeps into your bones. I dropped Caleb at school, gave him an extra hug, and promised we'd have a fun night, pizza, real pizza, not the kind that ruins anniversaries. His teacher caught me at the door, said Caleb's been talking about mommy being mad a lot. I thanked her, told her I'm handling it, but my gut twisted knowing Lauren's dragging him into her mess. At 9:30, Tom texted. Papers were served. Lauren was at work, and the process server caught her in the office lobby. I didn't hear from her right away, which was worse than a storm of calls. Silence from Lauren means she's plotting, and I braced for impact. By noon, the storm hit. My phone lit up with texts, first confused, then furious. You're really doing this, Matt? Over nothing? Then voicemails, her voice shaking with rage. You think you can take my son? You're nobody without me. I didn't reply, didn't listen past the first few seconds. Tom had warned me, don't engage, let her dig her own hole. I spent lunch in my truck, going over the plan. I'd already moved most of Caleb's stuff to Nate's over the past week, clothes, his dinosaur toys, that ratty blanket he won't sleep without. My things fit in 2 duffels, work boots, jeans, a few photos of me and Caleb. The house can stay with Lauren for now. I don't care about the furniture or the fancy plates we never used. I just want my kids safe. At 3 p.m., I picked Caleb up early, told the school it was a family matter. He climbed into the truck, asking if mommy was coming too. I said no, just us for now, and we'd see her soon. My heart ached lying to him, but the truth's too heavy for a 5-year-old. We drove to Nate's, and I set him up with cartoons while I unpacked his things. Around 6 o'clock, Lauren showed up, banging on Nate's door like she was tearing it down. I'd expected it, told Nate to stay with Caleb in the back room. I opened the door, kept my voice low. You need to leave, Lauren. Talk to my lawyer. Her face was a mess, mascara streaked, eyes wild. You can't do this, she screamed, loud enough for neighbors to peek out. He's my son. I didn't budge, just repeated, talk to Tom. She tried pushing past me, but I blocked the doorway, calm but firm. Nate called from inside, saying he'd dial 911 if she didn't go. That stopped her. She backed off, yelling about lawyers and revenge, then peeled out in her car. I locked the door, my hand shaking, and went to Caleb. He was curled up with Nate, watching a show, pretending he hadn't heard. I sat with him, ruffled his hair, and we didn't talk about it. Tuesday, I took the day off work to settle in at Nate's. Lauren's sister, Jess, called, voice quiet. She'd heard about the papers, said Lauren was spinning a story to their family about me abandoning her. Jess didn't buy it. She'd seen the emails, heard the recordings. I'm on your side, Matt, she said. Caleb needs you. I thanked her, told her she could visit anytime. Later, Tom called with an update. Lauren's lawyer was pushing for mediation, but her behavior, those voicemails, the scene at Nate's, wasn't helping her case. I spent the evening with Caleb, building a fort out of Nate's couch cushions. He asked if we'd live with Uncle Nate forever. I said no, we'd get our own place soon, just him and me. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Wednesday brought a surprise. My boss, Mike, pulled me aside at work, said he'd heard I was going through personal stuff. I braced for a lecture, but instead, he offered me a lead on a rental, a small house near Caleb's school, owned by his cousin. Nothing fancy, but affordable, with a yard for Caleb to play in. I drove by after work, peeked through the windows at the plain walls and creaky porch. It felt like a fresh start, not just a hideout. I told Mike I'd take it, shook his hand like it was a lifeline. That night, I checked Lauren's latest texts, more threats, then a sudden pivot to can we talk? I didn't bite. Tom's got everything she sent, and it's piling up against her. Today, I'm packing the last of Caleb's books while he's at school. Lauren's been quiet since yesterday, no calls, no texts, which makes me nervous, like the calm before a twister. I've got a meeting with Tom tomorrow to go over custody details, and I'm moving into the rental next week. Caleb's counselor says he's handling things okay but needs routine, so I'm keeping our nights simple: dinner, stories, bedtime. Tonight, we're making tacos, his favorite, and I'm letting him put on as many toppings as he wants, even if it's mostly cheese. Lauren's world is crumbling, and I'm not proud of that. But I'm done carrying her mistakes. Caleb's my focus now, and I'm building something new, one small step at a time. It's been 65 days since that night Lauren turned our anniversary into a wrecking ball, and I'm sitting in a new kitchen, flipping pancakes while Caleb hums a tune from school. The rental house isn't much, peeling paint on the porch, a fridge that hums louder than it should, but it's ours, mine and Caleb's, and there's a peace here I haven't felt in years. My arm's back to full strength, strong enough to hoist Caleb's bike onto the rack or carry groceries in one trip. The ache in my chest is still there, a quiet scar, but it's not the raw wound it was. I'm not the man I was 2 months ago, scrambling to hold my life together. I'm someone new, someone Caleb can lean on, and that's enough for now. The days after serving the papers were a blur, like driving through a storm with bad wipers. Lauren didn't go quietly. The morning after her scene at Nate's, she showed up at Caleb's school, trying to pull him out early, claiming I'd kidnapped him. The principal, a no-nonsense woman who'd seen my custody papers, called me instead. I got there in 10 minutes, heart pounding, and found Lauren in the office, yelling about her rights. Caleb was in the library, safe, but I could tell he'd heard too much. I didn't argue with her, just showed the principal Tom's contact info, and took Caleb home to Nate's. Tom filed for a temporary restraining order that afternoon, citing Lauren's erratic behavior. It was granted by evening, and Lauren was barred from contacting Caleb directly until mediation. I hated it had to come to that, but my boy's safety came first. The next week, Lauren tried a different tack, flooding my phone with apologies, voicemails about fixing us, even a card slipped under Nate's door with hearts drawn in her handwriting. I didn't buy it. Tom had warned me about this phase, love bombing, he called it, and I'd seen her flip from cruel to sweet too many times. I kept every message, sent them to Tom, and stayed silent. My focus was Caleb. His counselor helped me explain the changes. We'd live in a new house, he'd see mommy later, but I'd always be there. He clung to his dinosaur toys, asking if they could come too. Every last one, I promised, and we moved them to the rental together, stacking them on a shelf I built in his room. Mediation came 2 weeks later, in a gray conference room that smelled like old coffee. Lauren sat across from me, her lawyer whispering in her ear, while Tom laid out our terms. Shared custody with me as primary, fair asset split, no alimony. Lauren's eyes were red, her hands twisting a tissue, but she didn't fight like I'd expected. Tom had presented our evidence, recordings, texts, the school incident, even a statement from Jess about Lauren's neglect. Her lawyer pushed for more visitation, but when Tom played the anniversary recording, Lauren's face crumpled. She agreed to her terms within an hour. I'd have Caleb most of the time, she'd get supervised visits until she completed parenting classes, and we'd sell the house, splitting the proceeds. I walked out feeling lighter, not because I'd won, but because Caleb was protected. Moving into the rental was like breathing for the first time in months. Caleb picked out a blue rug for his room, and I hung his spaceship paintings on the fridge. Nate helped us settle, hauling boxes and joking about my terrible taste in curtains. My boss, Mike, stopped by with a toolbox as a housewarming gift, saying his cousin was glad to have a tenant who paid on time. Work's been steady. I got a small raise, enough to cover the rent and save a bit for Caleb's soccer camp next summer. The warehouse guys have been solid, too, inviting me for beers or asking about Caleb, like they know I need a crew again. Lauren's been a ghost since mediation. Jess says she's staying with a friend, maybe Derek, maybe not, doesn't matter anymore. Her visits with Caleb started last week, at a family center with a social worker watching. Caleb came back quiet, said mommy cried a lot. I didn't pry, just hugged him and made his favorite spaghetti. The counselor says he's adjusting, but it'll take time. I'm learning to be patient, to listen when he's ready to talk. He started smiling more, especially when we ride bikes in the cul-de-sac or when Nate comes over to play board games. Last night, he asked if we could invite Grandpa Ray for dinner soon. He likes your pancakes, Dad, he said, and I nearly choked up flipping one onto his plate. Today's Saturday, and the sun's spilling through our kitchen window, catching Caleb's syrup-sticky grin. I'm making those pancakes fluffy, not burnt, a skill I've finally nailed. The radio's playing some country song Dad would have hummed along to, and I can almost hear him saying, "You did good, Matt. You showed up." I think about that chilly night sometimes, how it broke me open, but I don't dwell on it. Lauren thought I was nothing, a guy who'd never stand up. She was wrong. I'm not a hero, just a dad who loves his kid enough to fight for him, and that's more than she ever gave me credit for. This afternoon, we're heading to the park with Ray, who's bringing his old baseball glove to toss a ball with Caleb. I'm packing a cooler, sandwiches, apples, a couple sodas, nothing fancy, just enough for a good day. The house smells like coffee and batter, and Caleb's laughing at a cartoon on the TV. It's not perfect, but it's real, and it's ours. I don't know what tomorrow holds. Maybe Lauren will get herself together, maybe she won't, but I know I'm done letting her define me. Caleb's my North Star, and this little house, with its creaky floors and second-hand couch, is where we're building something new. One pancake, one laugh, one day at a time.